Hello and welcome back to StringBoo.com.
In our previous lecture, we learned about the common string method. In this lecture, we're going to learn about the common integer methods that you're going to use in real time. Okay? So before I do that, I want to explain what the difference between int and integer is. So we've used int data type, right? So int is a primitive data type which stores the actual binary value for the integer you want to represent. Whereas integer is a Java class, and variables of integer stores references to the integer objects, just as with any other references. So basically what that means is int, a data type that we use, it's a primitive data type which actually stores the binary value. However, there's also an integer Java class, and variables of that integer Java class stores references to the integer object. Just like string object, the variables of integer stores references to the integer objects. So here are the common integer methods that you're going to use in real time. Okay, one of the first one is int value. It returns integer value of the integer class object. Double value. So if you have an integer and you want to actually convert it into a double value, you can use this method here, double value. And this is float value, returns the float value, and the parse int. Let's say you have a string, right? 212, something like that. If you want to actually return the integer value, right? Convert that string 212 into integer, you can use this parse int method. It's also used a lot now in the real time. The other one is compare, right? If you want to compare two numbers, then you can actually use compare. And the other one is equals, right? So just like the string, right? If you want to actually compare the integer, you can also do that with equals. For instance, here's an example here. I have integer a, b, c, d. So you can see here, right? Instead of int, I've got this class name in here, integer. This integer basically is different from int, right? Int is a primitive data type. This integer here, a, is the object of this integer class. So it's kind of like an object, right? So here I've said integer a equal 100, b equal 34, c equal 13, d equal 100. So now if I wanted to actually convert it into int value, I can just say a.int value, b.int value, and so on, right? So it's going to return the integer value of a. b.double value, right? So if you want to return a double value, which means decimal, you can do that. Same thing with float value, right? You can convert it into a float value, right? And the parse int, integer.parseInt. See here, I'm actually using this class integer, right, .parseInt. This parseInt is actually a static method, right? I do not have to create any object. I'm not using a.parseInt. I'm using integer.parseInt, right? So this parseInt is a static method. In here, the parameter is string, right? So if I want to convert this number, which was in string, to an integer, I can do parseInt. So let's say I want to compare two numbers, right? I can use this compare method. Okay, it's a static method, integer.compare. And I've got this 100, right? This is the first number, and the second one is 100. It's going to return 0 if equal, right? The numbers are equal, it's going to return 0. If x is greater than y, then it's going to return 1. If x is less than y, it's going to return -1. So you can do that comparison between two numbers using this .compare. And the other one is equals, right? So if I want to compare two numbers, I can do equals. And here I've got e equals d, so I got 100 and 100. It's going to return true. And a.c, there are two different numbers, it's going to return false. So as you can see here, a.int value is 0, 100, and b.double value, it's giving me 34.0, and c.float value, and 13.0, and parseInt, so it gave me an integer, and compare, so 100, 100 gives it's equal, so it returns 0, and x100 is greater than 90, greater than y, so it returns 1. And x, which is 90, is less than y, which is 100, is returned -1. And a.equals d, 100, 100 equals, so it returns true. And a.equals c, it's false. So that is kind of like an integer methods, right? So let's go back to our IntelliJ here. I'm actually going to create a new class in here. So I'm going to create a new class. And in here, I'm actually going to create integer methods. In here, I'm actually going to create a static void main string arch. Okay. And in here, I'm going to do integer a equal 100, integer b equals 20, integer c equal 20, let's say 200, 2200, something like that. Integer d equal 100 again. And I'm going to do system.out.println. I'm going to do a.int value and system.int.println b.double value. And I'm just going to copy this to make it a lot faster. This is going to be c.float value. So then I'm actually going to do integer.parseInt So here I want to say 2, 1, 3, 4, something like that. And here I want to actually compare two numbers. So I'm going to say 100 and 100. So it should return 0. Alright? So then I'm actually going to do system.out.println integer compare. I'm going to do 100 and 90. And copy this. And let's do 90. And that one is 100. And I'm going to do system.out.println a that equals d, and println a that equals c. So if I do this, I'm going to get a dot int value is 100, v dot double value is 20.0, float value 2200.0, and parse int 21334. When this was a string and I've parsed it to integer, so now this is an integer 21334. Integer.compare 100 100 are equal, so returns 0, and x is greater than y, so it returns 1. X is less than y, it returns -1. And a dot equals d, so both are equal, so returns true, and this returns false. Now let's try. I'm going to show you what the difference between int and integer is. Right? When I say do int, it's gonna come in different color, right? Gray, purple color over there. I'm going to say int e equals, let's say 500, right? So now if I try to do system.out.println, so e dot, see, I don't have anything here. E doesn't have any method. It's just a data type. I can't do anything in here. Value, right? It's value. No, there's no methods. Okay, it's just a primitive data type. It's just a primitive data type, so you cannot use all this cool stuff. So I cannot do anything like that, right? It just says that this int is a data type. It does not have any methods. So if you want, so how would you choose if you want to use integer or int, right? So if you gonna, use different methods like int, double value, float value, parse int, or something like that, it's recommended to use this integer. So, but if you're using just int as like a data type, a number you save as a data type, then you can just use it. So that's it for this lecture. I hope you guys understood what are the common different methods of integer. Okay, there are also many different methods you can find online and try to play around with it. Okay, so that's it for this lecture. I will see you guys in our next lecture.